Hello, horror fans. I'm Ghastly.
And I'm gruesome.
It's been a few months. We're the Graveyard Ghouls, and we're going to do one last big month of this thing. We're going to do 4 episodes this October, and then we're going to see what happens after that. But we've been on hiatus for a while, and we wanted to go out for the final Halloween of 2020. It's been a hell of a year.
Well, that's an understatement. But,
we're going to do one episode every week. We're going to cover different things, and we're going to round the whole thing out, like we promised all the way back when we started this nonsense, with Trick or Treat on Halloween itself. But for now, we're doing
Halloween.
John Carpenter's Halloween.
John Carpenter's Halloween.
From 1978. This was directed by John Carpenter. He wrote the screenplay with the producer Deborah Hill. It wasn't the first slasher movie. That was probably either Black Christmas or Texas Chainsaw. And then the thing that really set the mold was, Friday the 13th.
Right.
But this was the one that really brought them into the public consciousness as, oh, hey, these can make money and aren't hard to do. Even though, as evidenced by the number of ones that are just terrible, they actually are hard to do. They made it look easy.
I don't know. This is one of my favorite, horror movies, simply because I like the feel of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. There's a great atmosphere to it. It feels very Halloween-y, for lack of a better term. There's a great sense of build, of atmosphere. The direction is good. We'll talk more about that after we've, rewatched it, but I just remember watching it for the first time and thinking to myself, wow, this holds up very well for a film that clearly had no budget.
It's also so simple.
It's
such a basic storyline, but it's able to hold your attention through a brilliant score and slick directing.
Well, I mean, Carpenter is a genius. He was. I'm gonna be honest. I have made it a point never to watch any of the sequels or anything to this. I was talking to my father about that, and he's like, "So you're gonna watch Halloween 2?" Because he knows I'm a big horror fan. And I go, "Well, the director of Halloween said that he wrote Halloween 2 specifically because of the amount they were going to pay him, because he'd always envisioned Halloween as a standalone."
I've watched halfway through Halloween 2.
I don't know. If the man who wrote and directed it said, "No, I did it as mercenary work, I had no love for the project," that's not promising.
That's fair. And they've tried to redo this franchise several times.
They have tried to. Let's
back up. They gave Rob Zombie, who is a prominent rock star and
horror fan
and director, let's be honest, because he's done a few revivals.
Yes, but he does his takes on horror very much tend to be the fanboy reboot, where it's very clear that this is a passion project based on a thing that you grew up with and now you're trying to do it yourself. And sometimes that works. With Halloween, it didn't.
Yeah, and then there was the most recent thing where they tried to revive the original series. And, make it a retro. Was it supposed to ignore the second film?
Yeah, it ignored the sequels. They did the same thing that Jurassic Park and Jurassic World did, where they said, screw it, we're forgetting the sequels. We're not going to explicitly say, lol, they don't exist, but we're just not going to pay attention to them.
Right.
Which can work. I haven't actually seen the new Halloween, I'm not going to lie. Mostly because I've just been disillusioned with all these reboots.
Jamie Lee Curtis, has probably brought a lot to that film.
Probably did. I don't doubt that there were good performances in it. Look, Alexandra Daddario was great in the reboot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
And I'm not just saying that because she's running around in barely any clothing and I think she's a very attractive actress. She's actually giving a good performance. The film is still bad. And I don't know. Look, as we talked about in Texas Chainsaw, they made almost a dozen sequels, all of which ignored the one before it, rebooted it 3 times, made prequels to the reboot. The Friday the 13th movies. Admittedly, they did get better with the first few sequels by virtue of actually bringing Jason in as a killer.
Right.
But then they got crazier and weirder and goofier, and then they went to space. Hellraiser got so many sequels that it went to space. Okay,
the only reboot that I'm actually kind of, because it's apparently it just looks so different from the original property is the Evil Dead reboot.
I could see that, but honestly,
the one with the girl.
Worried, no, yeah, but you know why I'm not worried about that so much?
Well,
Evil Dead got better with every sequel.
Interesting.
They got because the original
Evil Dead I'm most interested to see the difference in that because they're just two different movies. One's going for whatever Sam Raimi's going for at any point in time.
Yeah, sort of a non-self-aware camp, really, when he was doing horror. That's the thing. The original Evil Dead wasn't very super self-aware with the tree rape and the terrible effects and such. And then the second one
But it was gory as hell.
Yes, it was, and that's what worked. But then the second one went, okay, what if we kept the gore, but realized how goofy we are and played into that and gave our hero a chainsaw hand and such. And then the third one was like, yeah, it's the same idea. And then Army of Darkness sent him back in time, and then Ash vs. the Evil Dead is just fun. It's just good, clean, wholesome. It's not clean and wholesome.
I kind of wanted to see the parody musical of it because apparently
they have thing.
Well, yeah, they have a parody musical for Evil Dead.
Amazing.
And apparently they splatter blood on the fake blood on the audience and shit like that. Like it's a real interactive experience. Like I wouldn't go there without a fucking poncho.
Oh,
but
sure.
But look, an Evil Dead musical.
No, that's good. I mean, they did a Carrie musical, which wasn't great. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't great.
There's a few good songs in there, but
there can be good elements to a bad property. I think the thing with let's try to get back on topic here. The thing with the original Halloween that we're gonna watch is, I think it's the opposite. There are bad elements to a good movie here.
Right.
This is a good movie that has a couple of very noticeable flaws in it, and I think that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, or however that phrase goes. To finish the thought from the sequels thing, none of the sequels or reboots of Halloween, again, I don't know about the most recent reboot, but none of the sequels to Halloween were particularly great. I'd heard Halloween 2 wasn't good and I skipped it. I did end up watching on TV one point at 2 a.m. The weird Halloween... I think it's the third one where they got the weird masks where Michael Myers doesn't show up and it's just evil techno witches working from an evil corporation. An evil corporation, basically, because Carpenter didn't like the way
yes.
Because Carpenter didn't like the way 2 came out with continuing Myers' story, he said, screw it, it's just an anthology thing now. And so 3 involved an evil corporation of modern witches selling Halloween masks that kill kids when their Shamrock commercial comes on. 3 more days till Halloween, 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 3 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. It's the Silver Shamrock Corporation that sells the evil mask. It was a weird, not great movie. And then after that, they just went back to Myers, and they just kept ignoring the other sequels. And the only thing I remember was the mask got progressively dumber looking. They could never get the mask to look right.
There's some cartoon episodes of that. There's a cartoon web show on YouTube that tracks the different looks of characters throughout long series, and Michael Myers is one of them. And
that's goofy looking.
Yeah, his mask gets weirdly tight.
Well, okay.
And weirdly pulled back.
So here's what happened. I actually do know what happened with the mask.
Originally, it feels like a form of a human face, but then it just starts to get weird.
Well, okay, so originally, in the original movie, what they did was they went to a Halloween costume store, bought a William Shatner mask,
right,
painted it white, and gave it a new hair. And that was it. When they made Halloween 2, they used the same mask, except it had been kept in a shoebox under somebody's bed. And Halloween 2 came out in 1981. Halloween came out in 1978. So the mask was there's this weird thing. I saw the trailer for 2. And even though it takes place literally on the same night as Halloween, his mask looks like it's aged 4 years.
Right.
Because it has. And then in 3, Season of the Witch, he's not there. In 4, Return of Michael Myers, they brought in a new mask. And I guess they tried to make they tried to recreate the mask, but by building it themselves out of latex, and it didn't work. Revenge of Michael Myers, they got another mask. Curse of Michael Myers was the first time I'd ever seen a slasher movie look like they were wearing their own cheap Halloween costume, because it really looked like someone bought an off-the-rack Michael Myers costume and put the actor in it.
Incredible!
And then Halloween H2O 20 years later. That one I didn't watch, I saw the trailer for it, but all these other horror franchises go to space. Michael Myers went to the ocean. Because it's Halloween H2O.
Jaws was a thing?
I don't know. It came out in 98. God.
Alright. Well.
Yeah, and then they did Resurrection in 2002, and that pretty much did so poorly in theaters that they didn't do anything else until 2007 when Rob Zombie did it. Then he did Halloween 2, and then that one underperformed. And then in 2018, there was the direct sequel to the original Halloween, just called Halloween.
Again.
Because we're trying to confuse future archivists. Someday, some poor bastard in like the 30th century is gonna major in the archaeology of horror films or some nonsense. And he's gonna try to archive these movies, and he's going to have an aneurysm while writing his thesis because the timeline and the names are never gonna line up.
I feel like it's really all gonna get thrown under anthropology because it's just this study of human pop culture.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying for a joke about, useless liberal arts degrees, but I'm at that point where I am both not drunk enough and slightly too drunk. Yeah, we're gonna have more during the movie. Anyway, what else is there to say about Halloween? It was John Carpenter directed it. They who's in this thing? Who is in
Jamie
this
Lee
thing?
Curtis.
Donald Pleasance. I remember he plays the psychiatrist. He's like the only person in this movie who was a big name actor when the film came out.
Yeah.
And wasn't this the movie that made Jamie Lee Curtis's career?
I'm pretty
Wasn't this
sure.
her big break? Because she plays Laurie Strode, and she's the best of the teenagers, quote unquote.
And honestly, Jamie Lee Curtis is a brilliant actress.
Okay, yeah, it goes without saying, but she was, if I'm not mistaken, kind of a nobody in the industry when this came out.
Right.
Because again, no budget.
Guys, remember, Jamie Lee Curtis of Freaky Friday fame.
Yes. Yes, a Freaky Friday fan. She also did some other things, Escape from New York, A Fish Called Wanda, My Girl, a few other things.
No, she only did Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan.
She was in Knives Out last year, remember that?
I love Knives Out.
That was fun. That was mismarketed, but fun nonetheless. It was not the movie it was marketed as, but I enjoyed it. Okay, we're getting super off topic.
Yeah.
Shoestring budget. John Carpenter made it work. Jamie Lee Curtis became a star because of this movie, if I'm not mistaken. Donald Pleasance is amazing. Who played Michael?
Oh, I don't know. Like, Michael's been played by a few different
Okay, even in this movie, he's played by a few different actors, because there's him as a kid, and there's him as an adult, and then there's also him when he's Murderer Michael. It's interesting. People call Michael Myers The Shape because he's actually... One actor is credited as Michael Myers, and one actor is credited in the end credits as The Shape, which is basically when he's in stocky mode, and he's just got to be a big bulky guy in the Halloween mask. So, yeah, you know what? Without further ado, before we ramble anymore...
You guys all know. You've all seen
Halloween. We'll see you after the movie. And we're back. Alright, so Halloween. Alright, so I mentioned before, good movie with some flaws. Let's talk about the flaws. The budget is obviously non-existent. All of the actors who are supposed to be teenagers are in, well, I was gonna say they're all in their 20s, but it turns out Jamie Lee Curtis was 19 in this and just looks like she's 20.
She's like 20. 19, 20, but like...
They all look like they're in their 20s, but...
Most of them are 27, something like that, 25,
And the weird thing
27.
is Jamie Lee Curtis looks like she's like 25 when she was 19.
She just has a deep set voice and like a very mom face. Like,
yeah, but and not in a mean way. She's not a bad looking person. She just looks older than she is.
She's definitely an actress who like aged into her face and her voice.
There you go. I mean,
Jamie Lee Curtis is brilliant. Nothing but good things to say about her.
So, I mean, she does a great job. She's one of the most iconic final girls in the slasher genre. So there's that. One of the problems with this movie isn't really a problem with the movie. It's that because it was the codifier of so many of the things in the slasher genre, so much of it looks cliche in hindsight. If you've seen any slasher movie made between 1990, or hell, 1985 really, and the present day, you've seen them do stuff from this film, and it takes away from how groundbreaking it was when they did it the first time. Like that bit where they think that they've killed the monster, and they're like, oh god, okay, we got him, and then the monster slowly sits up behind them.
Well, yes.
They did this did that first.
Oh, boogeyman, relentless, non-stop. You gotta kill him 40 times, but like...
You just can't kill Michael Myers, and they leave it very ambiguous
again,
about
our friend,
if he's a human who's super strong, or if he's just a monster.
Again, our friend who was in the room while we were watching this movie, pointed out, like, that...
Laurie just kept stabbing him.
Laurie just does a one-shot stab, and then he's down for a few seconds, and then he gets back up. And a one-shot is not the thing. You just gotta go after him while...
Okay, but I'm gonna defend this.
While he's already incapacitated.
Okay, but she's a 17-year-old girl from Everytown, USA, completely sheltered, very clearly traumatized by this lunatic trying to kill her. The shot pretty much goes as far as it can without showing it to show that she drove the knife all the way hilt deep into his chest. And he immediately staggers backwards, collapses to the ground, and then lies still for a good minute and a half.
It's not just the chest stab, it's the neck stab.
She stabs him in the neck too, and again, he falls backwards and lies there without moving. He looks very dead. And she doesn't want to...
Even crying and...
Yeah, she's crying and traumatized. And
you gotta just...
Yes, I know. I also, the first time I saw this, thought, okay, now stab him again. Okay, now stab him again. But, look, we're watching the movie. We're like, okay, it's a horror movie. We know he's going to do this, that, and the other thing. If you think about what it'd be like to be in that situation as a sheltered teenage kid, your first instinct is not going to be, I must stab what I think is a corpse. I must make sure he's dead. It's going to be, oh my god, someone's trying to kill me. Oh my god, I just killed a man. This would be a traumatic experience. Soldiers who've been through boot camp have nervous breakdowns after shooting people. Some teenage girl is definitely going to have a nervous breakdown after being forced to stab someone in the neck with a knitting needle.
But the thing that just freaks you out is that the fact that you learn in the end that he can't die.
Yeah, they shoot him 6 times in the chest, then he falls out of a second-story window, flat on his back onto the ground. And then they look back down and he's just gone. He just got up and left.
They don't even look back down, Peter. They don't know that he's ran away until...
No, Loomis looks... Laurie goes, he was the boogeyman. Loomis goes, as a matter of fact, he was. And then he looks back down. And
no,
Myers
it's just
gone.
we just watched this and the camera just cuts back to it.
Yeah, but it cuts back up to Loomis staring down at the ground with this look of, yep, I warned him.
No, he's just staring at Laurie.
No, he's looking out the window.
He does not look away from Laurie, not once.
He does. He turns and he goes to the... He says, as a matter of fact, he was, and then the next shot literally shows him standing at the railing of the balcony that Myers fell off of.
I feel like I've seen that scene too, but I don't feel like I saw it this time around.
Look, in any event, the point is, Myers doesn't die.
Right,
and the only person who called it was Loomis. You know, back with the scene where you were saying the other really good actor... Because we said at the beginning that... Who plays Loomis? John something?
Fuck.
John...
He's in Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. John Carpenter directed it. Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance
played Loomis. That's fine. I looked it up. Donald Pleasance. We were saying at the beginning that Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis were the best actors in this, and then we were watching it, and we get to the point where Donald Pleasance's character, Loomis, is arguing with the asylum director, where Myers was kept, and you're like, that guy can act, and I'm like, yeah, but he's on screen for
all 4 seconds.
20 seconds, maybe, to have an argument with Loomis?
Still.
But it's a good scene, nonetheless, because Loomis is like, Michael has escaped. The evil has escaped. And the asylum director is like, well, if you thought he was so dangerous, you should have warned us. And Loomis pretty much almost in tears with rage is like, I did warn everyone. I've been warning you for 7 years that this man is pure evil and cannot be allowed to escape. And nobody believes him because, he's a mental patient and well, I mean, we shouldn't be too mean, and it's clever because the instinct is, well, we shouldn't categorize the mentally ill as dangerous, because of course we shouldn't. And this movie proposes the rather, at the time anyway, novel concept of, sure, but what happens when one of them comes along who legitimately is? And of course, like everything else that was once novel, the concept of, but this one mental patient is super dangerous, has been beaten to death and is now a dead horse, but, you know...
You know what's fascinating to me?
What?
Is that, so there's a few scenes in this movie where you see Michael Myers almost as if it's a Where's Waldo.
Yeah,
where
the
he's
shape
in the
just
corner
lurking.
and just lurking and kind of in the corner. Rob Zombie took that idea and ran away with it and put that kind of lurking and kind of in the corner where
I think he overdid it a little bit, yeah.
In every scene. But what's interesting about this is I forgot this movie had a lot of over-the-shoulder perspectives with Michael Myers.
Yeah, they're not so much trying to hide Michael from us as to... It's a dramatic irony thing. It's not a, ooh, you didn't notice him. It's a, you noticed him. The person he's gonna kill didn't notice him, though. The dramatic irony is great. It's like when you know that the villain is the hero's best friend, but the hero doesn't know it. And so the reveal isn't really a spoiler for you, it's just you get to see the hero get their heart ripped out.
I think it also, but we don't get a good look at him for a good while in the movie.
Oh no, we see his face twice. When he's a tiny little child, when he first murdered his sister.
Oh, and I don't mean
then
his
after
face
that,
reveal.
you don't, because I was gonna say, then his mask gets pulled off at the very end.
Because the first few shots of him, we just see his over the shoulder, we just see him in his jumpsuit and part of the white of the mask.
Well, the first time we see him isn't even that. We see him when he escapes the asylum, and he's just in his white hospital gown, and he's moving so fast we never get a shot of his face.
Yeah.
But you're right, we see the white of his mask a little bit, and we see it's always filmed from the neck down. You're right.
The thing is...
It's very well built up.
The other thing is, like, we see all of those patients in the field in the beginning of that shot.
That's
so,
such a
like,
spooky scene.
Why is it only Michael who gets out?
Because, again, Michael's the only one who's legitimately dangerous and evil. It's a maximum security asylum, but the rest of them are, mentally ill. Killed somebody because of some weird thing that they can't control. Michael is, again, Loomis points it out, he sat in a room staring at a wall for 15 years without saying anything or moving, and then for whatever reason happened to break out that night. Reasons known only to him, because he's nuts, because what's going on in this guy's head can't make sense, because again, look what happens when he gets to Haddonfield. I mean, he kills a truck driver to steal his clothes, that's a pragmatic murder, but then he gets to Haddonfield and spends literally all day stalking people, killing a random dog and eating it, stalking more people.
Does he eat it?
Yeah, remember when they're in the house, not the dog that we see him kill.
Okay.
When Loomis and the sheriff get to the old Myers place thinking that Michael might be there, and they find out that the door's unlocked and like, he's been here already, they point the flashlight. We never see it on camera, but the sheriff goes, "What's that?" "It's a dog. He got hungry." "No, a man wouldn't do this. We're not dealing with a man."
Oh.
Because remember when Laurie drops the keys off...
That very much blows over my head in every single viewing.
Remember when Laurie drops the keys off, we see Myers is already in the house watching her.
Because, when you say dog, I'm thinking of
when
the
he
dog
kills
that
Annie.
appears on screen.
Yeah, when he kills Annie and the big German shepherd barks at him and he just picks it up and strangles it to death with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is, again, to go back to this guy's lunacy, he comes home, steals the gravestone of the sister that he murdered, goes back to his abandoned house where he eats a stray dog, and then he just hangs out there. Until Laurie drops the keys off because the real estate people are selling it. At which point he decides, I guess I'm stalking this girl who happened by my house. And he spends the rest of his day just following her around, doing nothing but staring at her. And then as soon as night falls, he murders everybody who gets near to him, building up to Laurie. And it's left very ambiguous if he was deliberately luring her, or if she just happened to stumble into it and he just, oh, I guess you're next. Because it's impossible, aside from the fact that he's wearing a mask that it conceals all of his expression, and the fact that he's got no dialogue, his motives don't seem to exist or make sense. I mean, after he murders people, he poses their bodies and, like, stares at them like he's looking at an art exhibit. He's just nuts. And it's scary. You were about to say something?
I'm trying to look at Michael Myers' face on my phone right now.
The mask or the one he gets unmasked?
When he gets unmasked.
That's the thing that got me when he gets unmasked, is he looks completely normal.
He doesn't, though.
He's got a screwed up eye, but that's because Laurie stabbed him in the eye with the...
Oh, that's
the one eye is all swelled shut because Laurie stabbed him in the eye with a coat hanger, and then stabbed him in the chest with his knife, and then he got back
I was
up
always
again.
wondering why his eye was closed. And
Because he just got poked in it with a
I'm
big
like,
wire hanger.
Does he have a weird deformed, like, upper half of his...
No, he just got stabbed, that's all.
Side of his face, like...
No, that's the thing. He's a completely normal-looking thing, which was set up at the beginning. When the killer who snuck into the house and stabbed the teenage girl to death gets unmasked, and it's just a completely normal-looking...
Little
6-year-old boy whose parents can't figure out why he's standing in the front yard with a bloody knife.
Is this the only movie we get a face reveal in?
I'm pretty sure. Because Rob Zombie went out of his way to hide Michael behind that goofy Cousin It hair.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like the heavy metal rocker, greasy black hair that hides his face in every shot?
But I'm pretty sure that's because Rob Zombie wanted to make Michael Myers all rock and roll.
Which is a dumb choice. I don't know. When it feels like the movie is building up the mystique.
I totally get the Rob Zombie Halloween when I think of the aesthetic of Rob Zombie.
Well, okay. Yes. The Rob Zombie Halloween is a perfect Rob Zombie aesthetic. The problem is the Rob Zombie aesthetic, in my opinion, is kind of clashing with the Halloween aesthetic that's established in the classic Halloween. I mean, say what you will about Halloween 2, or even Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, they felt like they were the same movie series. They felt worse, but they felt the same aesthetically.
I think the real key difference is that Rob Zombie is very explicit, and John Carpenter is really subtle.
Subtle, stylish, restrained. The lack of a budget kind of does work in this film.
Rob Zombie's loud and proud.
And I think that's not as scary.
It can be.
Okay, it can be because Stephen King is loud. I'd love to see Rob Zombie adapt a Stephen King book.
Okay.
Because those tones would match.
Fair enough.
You gotta match the artist to the tone. But yeah, there's the trouble with talking about this movie is it's so simple. There's not a lot to talk about. Michael escapes. Loomis realizes he's escaped. Loomis spends the rest of the film trying to convince everyone, holy crap, there's a murderer here who's going to kill everyone. Michael stalks people and then goes on a killing spree. And it's a fairly restrained killing spree, at least in the context of modern horror films. He kills, 5 people in this whole movie?
Yeah.
One of them off screen. Because it's the trucker who he kills for the jumpsuit.
This is such an iconic soundtrack. That theme, and the one that you mentioned that gets you every time.
Bam bam. Bam bam.
Yeah, that whole thing. They're actually one of them is that one is actually in a game that I used to play called The Movies.
Amazing. You gotta keep.
You basically play a computer game where you own a movie studio and you have all these sets and you have actors and you have whatever.
Oh God.
And like you manage their moods and their star power.
And like yes, the soundtrack comes in like the horror movie or whatever.
Oh yeah, if you make a horror movie, they do that comes over.
Of course,
like,
they use Halloween soundtrack.
But like also.
Aside from directing and writing, co-writing, but he did most of the writing. This movie, Carpenter also played the piano soundtrack. And he has no formal training in music. He plays by ear, according to him anyway. Or played by ear. I think he might not be alive anymore. I'm not certain.
Isn't that all the most brilliant people? They don't know how to write or read music. They just play by ear.
Yeah, I mean, Mozart, not a single bit of training. I mean, Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, Freddie Mercury, none of these guys had any actual ability to read music.
I mean,
this is sarcasm.
Well,
this is deep sarcasm.
Really? Because a lot of these people talk about how the fact that they don't. A lot of famous people, a lot of famous songwriters talk about the fact that they can't read or write music. They just fudged it. Billy Joel cannot read music.
Okay, that's fair.
Listen,
I'm trying not to say something mean about Billy Joel because I love Billy Joel, but Billy Joel sings a lot.
Billy Joel is one of the greatest songwriters of all time.
Yes,
Shut
he
your
is.
mouth.
Yes, he is. You're right. Okay. Let's get back on topic. See, that's again coming back to why I haven't watched Halloween 2. Aside from him saying he only did it for the paycheck, the other thing John Carpenter said about it was, the only thing that got me through writing that script was the 6-pack of beer I had next to my typewriter every night. And I'm like, this can't be a good film!
That's another thing you have to do in the movies. You have to manage their, habits, and, sometimes they turn into alcoholics, and you can't help it.
Well, but that's not Carpenter was an alcoholic. He was like, well, this is junk. I'm being paid to write junk. I guess I may as well be drunk. That wasn't supposed to rhyme. I'm drunk.
I think it was interesting to set all of Halloween 2 in a hospital. I don't think...
It made kind of sense. And
again, I've only watched half the movie.
Well, it's not all of it, because it picks up... I watched... I say I haven't watched it. I watched the first 5 minutes and went, nope, screw this. Because it picks up literally where Halloween left off.
Yes.
But, here's the thing. In Halloween 2, his outfit being the same made sense, because it picks up right where the other one left off. But all of the sequels, Halloween H2O, Michael's Revenge, Michael Resurrected, all the nonsense sequels, kind of made the blue jumpsuit and white Halloween mask his iconic look, and made the kitchen knife his signature weapon. And yeah, he does use signature kitchen knives twice during this film. He uses it when he first murders his sister, and he does use it for his rampage in this movie. But he stole the knife from a Halloween shop. And the mask he grabbed also from a shop. This isn't some look he's cultivated. When he first killed somebody, he was wearing a clown mask. He just grabbed a mask to put over his face. It's not like he's Rorschach or Leatherface where the mask is his face. He just wears a mask because he doesn't have any identity. So I think the sequels making him have a look was a mistake. There was a missed opportunity to give him a new mask every time.
I think in the sequels, they should have just had a William Shatner mask, but not painted.
I think they should have given him a new Halloween mask every time. Because they basically did, because the mask looks less and less freaky every sequel. It looks less and less correct.
Plain, non-painted William Shatner mask. He just looks like William Shatner murdering everybody.
Just want Captain Kirk, only rubber, walking up and stabbing somebody with it. I think the surrealness of that might actually make it cross around to being frightening again.
That's so funny.
Oh boy. I do like that there was no big reveal with who Michael Myers was. A, we know his name from the start. And B, when the mask comes off, the freaky part isn't, oh my god, it was Mr. Jenkins all along. It's the freaky part is, he's not a monster under there. He just looks like a dude. He's actually fairly handsome, other than the screwed up eye from being stabbed in it.
I wouldn't say he's handsome.
Not handsome, but he's not bad looking. He's a decent looking 20-something man. Which is freaky. The fact that the killer looks like a normal person under the mask is kind of freaky.
And the fact that he's invincible.
That's screwed up too, yeah. But I mean, Leatherface has the screwed up teeth, and his family is all deformed looking. It's a bit of a cliche for the killer to have something really screwed up looking about it. Jigsaw is, ancient and stuff.
They had to give him one bum eye before they
because he got stabbed 30 seconds before.
But I'm saying, before they took off his mask, they have to give him one bum eye.
Yeah, but it's just, that's a freaky thought to me. Because think about it. Think about how stealthy he manages to be in a super conspicuous blue worker jumpsuit and a bright white mask. But again, it's only because it's Halloween.
It was George Clooney all along.
Imagine how stealthy this guy could be if he wasn't in a mask. You saw the face. Imagine if that guy was just walking down the street in jeans and a t-shirt. You would not look at him and go, yeah, clearly he's about to murder someone. Granted, the only reason you don't look at the creepy Michael Myers shaped mask in this and think, he's about to murder someone, is because his rampage happened on Halloween, but...
Well, I mean, the scariest this even looks is when he's half coming out of the closet with half of his
the dark
mask,
where Laurie thinks she's killed, where Laurie not thinks she's killed him, where Laurie finds all her dead friends.
Half of his mask shrouded in shadow. That image is so iconic that they used it for the
poster,
the sequel,
the 2018 poster,
sequel film, yeah.
Here's the thing about that scene, where she's just found all of her dead friends set up in, like, closets and on the bed with his sister's tombstone and all that, and she's sitting there sobbing because her friends are all dead. Laurie is. And then Myers appears in the closet. Now, according to John Carpenter, the director, a lot of people look at that scene and think that Myers is peeking his head out. What's supposed to be happening is it's supposed to convey the idea that you're in the dark room with Laurie and your eyes are slowly adjusting to the darkness, and as they adjust to the darkness, you see that Myers is just sitting there staring. And that is so much worse, because that means he was that close to her for the entire time she's sitting there sobbing, and he just chose not to murder her because it wasn't the right time or whatever. Like Loomis says, waiting for a signal to go off in his head. He's a creepy character. And the brilliance of him is how little we know about him. Sequels that tried to fill in everything. Ugh. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop taking creepy, mysterious characters and going, we must know what their childhood was. No, we mustn't. No. Stop that.
It's just a broken home.
Bad Hollywood.
Listen, that was the uninspired thing about Rob Zombie's sequel.
That was the most uninspired thing.
Yeah, but like...
Because it's... he killed his sister because the home was broken and emotionally abusive and neglectful. No, that's not scary anymore. That's depressing. Random 6-year-old...
It's also... it wasn't very filmed very well, so like...
That. But again, that's just depressing. That's just domestic disputes and shit. An otherwise idyllic suburban home suddenly having their 6-year-old angelic child stab the daughter.
Not just regular idyllic suburban home. That family looks rich in the beginning.
They do, and all of a sudden their angelic, curly-haired, cherub-cheeked 6-year-old boy stabs his sister to death for literally no reason.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's a frightening thought.
There's some
Giving it a reason castrates it.
There's some awkward scenes in this movie, and there's some awkward positions, but it's really
there are. Effective. Like, when he stabs his sister, it's super obvious that she's going, oh no, I'm stabbed, and not actually getting stabbed.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a running problem, is there's her
well, also
and
the perspective
Annie
to film that from, like, it was a first-person point of view through a...
mask.
And
they couldn't actually, because the girl was naked when she got stabbed, they couldn't use a child actor, so they had to use they used a very short crew member
and they were
for the arms.
And they were obviously just doing
moving the camera up and down to simulate him stabbing. And yet...
Which you don't move your
you don't move your head when you're stabbing. Even if you are a child, you don't rock your head back and forth as you stab. And yet
it still works.
And yet it still works. Part of it's because it's iconic. And part of it is just because...
The reveal at the end's really good.
The reveal at the end's good. The reveal of him being a kid's good. Just... the awkwardness of the setup is countered by the sheer terror of the situation being suggested. Now, one thing I want to check before we close this out is whether this came out before Friday the 13th or not. Because Friday the 13th also opens with a first-person perspective character noticing the killer but not saying their name and then getting stabbed to death shot, and I want to know who ripped off who.
1980.
So Friday the 13th 100% ripped off the opening scene from Halloween.
Yes.
And then did its own thing. Friday the 13th is an interesting one to me, because with this one I watched it, I was surprised at how well it held up in spite of the low budget. It's, in my mind, a case of a director who knows what he's doing being hamstringed by a non-existent budget and some awkward actors. Friday the 13th doesn't hold up super well as a film. It does hold up as I see what the impact it left on the genre is. And it's got some very clever moments and scenes in it.
Right.
So whereas Halloween works as a whole despite some awkward scenes, Friday the 13th, in my opinion, doesn't work as a whole, but does have some brilliant scenes. Great double feature, though. If you ever want a great night of some cheesy but really spooky fun, crack open a couple of cold ones with your friends and watch Halloween and Friday the 13th back to back.
Just remember,
especially if you've never seen them, they're worth checking out just to see where the genre started.
A quick note on Friday the 13th. Having been someone who was introduced to the franchise for the first time, I didn't realize that he doesn't wear that the hockey mask doesn't come in until the sequel.
Oh yeah, no, Jason is not. Spoiler alert, but Jason, Hockey Mask and Machete Boy, is not the killer in the original Friday the 13th. The original Friday the 13th is crudely done, but nevertheless, murder mystery. It's more. There's an Italian film genre called the giallo, and I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation. Literally, they're called black glove movies because the killer wears black gloves, and you'd see it from their perspective, and you'd see the black gloves holding the knife, and that's the only clue you'd get.
Right.
And the idea of the films was we'd see a series of murders, and we'd have to figure out who the killer was. And Friday the 13th is that translated into American theater.
Right.
The original one is. After that, it turned into pure slasher.
Right.
Which, more power to him, Jason's an iconic killer.
Listen, I was just expecting to see the hockey mask, and I didn't.
He doesn't get
just
the hockey mask.
Just don't expect to see it.
He doesn't have the hockey mask in 2 either. He wears a sort of a pillowcase sheet over his head with the eye cut out. Like a scarecrow hillbilly. He gets the hockey mask in the 3rd one.
It's incredible that there can be an iconic look for a character, and it cannot come until the 3rd sequel in their franchise.
You gotta remember, 2nd sequel, 3rd movie. You gotta remember, in the first one, the Friday the 13th 2 literally had to ignore plot points from Friday the 13th in order to be made. Because it's a major plot point in Friday the 13th that Jason died when he was like 7.
Yeah.
And then in Friday the 13th 2, he's a grown man avenging the death of his mother.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but who cares? First one made money, and we killed off everyone but one character. We need a sequel. It didn't make sense enough that it spawned another, I think, 10 sequels.
So it's just
and a reboot.
Okay, that's different. I'm gonna have to look at those movies again now, because
yeah, they're fun. They're weird. They're one of the most clear cases of we are making this movie to make this movie, and yet there's enough brilliant moments that the franchise holds up. All right, we've gotten way far afield.
Anyway, this has
Halloween.
been Halloween.
78. 78. John Carpenter. Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, The Shape. It's all good stuff. Iconic score. Oh, you were talking about the atmosphere. The omnipresence of jack-o'-lanterns throughout this film.
Oh, yeah.
I love
everywhere.
it. They're great. They're everywhere. And they're so...
Home,
yeah. You look at them and it's like, yeah, that wasn't made for a movie. Some kid carved that.
Yeah.
And it makes it creepier.
Well, they probably did them all on set.
They probably did. When we get to actual Halloween, when we get to October the 31st and we get to watch Trick or Treat, we're going to see some more stylized jack-o'-lanterns, and I think you're going to get a kick out of those too.
People who professionally carve jack-o'-lanterns, I don't get it, because it's
So next week, I think we said it was
it's
Sleepy
a fucking
Hollow, right?
squash.
It's not a squash. It's a pumpkin.
It's a gourd.
I think we said Sleepy Hollow is next week.
Yeah.
Alright, which also has pumpkins! Pumpkin Month, baby! Alright, okay. This has been Halloween 1978. I have been ghastly.
I've been gruesome.
Happy October, everybody!
Happy, as all the major news media calls it, spooky season.
Oh god. You had to stay spooky.